It's eerily quiet now. The stillness that lingers feels unfamiliar, a stark contrast to the years of vibrant noise, lively chaos, and endless laughter that once filled these walls. Kathy has gone out for what she claims is a simple grocery run. But knowing her generous nature, I wouldn't be surprised if she returned with a little something for the house, or perhaps a small gift for me. Her thoughtfulness never fails to warm my heart. As our 25th wedding anniversary approaches in just a month, the realization hits me with unexpected weight. It seems like just yesterday I was nervously fidgeting with a ring in my pocket, contemplating the perfect proposal to avoid looking foolish. Now, here we are 24 years later, with 2 grown children who have flown the nest, leaving the once bustling household feeling remarkably empty. Jack, our eldest, is about to graduate from college, while Emily, our youngest, has recently embarked on her sophomore year. The absence of their lively presence is palpable. The house no longer echoes with Jack's music reverberating from his room or Emily's spirited debates with Kathy over curfews. The constant hustle and bustle of our friends coming and going has quieted down. Nowadays, it's usually just Kathy and me, and on days like today, I find myself alone. Deciding it was time to start my day, I reluctantly left the comfort of my bed. Kathy would probably tease me if she saw me now, lounging around like a retiree when it's only mid-morning. I reached for the bottle of vitamins on my nightstand, twisted off the cap, and poured one into my hand. However, instead of landing in my palm, the small pill bounced off the table's edge, dropped to the floor, and rolled underneath the bed. With a sigh, I muttered a few expletives under my breath and knelt down to retrieve it. The space was darker than I had anticipated, with a faint aroma of dust lingering in the air. I blindly felt around, encountering bits of lint and an old sock that likely belonged to Jack before he went off to college. Then my fingers came across something unexpected, a thin, crinkly object that felt out of place. I pulled it out and examined it closely for a moment. He sat on the floor, my stomach dropping as I recognized the object in my hand. A condom wrapper. I was frozen for a moment, staring at it like a foreign object. Initially, I felt perplexed. Who could it belong to? No one had been here besides Kathy and me for the past 3 months. The realization that followed sent a wave of unease through me. I had undergone a vasectomy after our second child was born. We had agreed that our family was complete. So why was there a condom wrapper under our bed? The unsettling thought crept into my mind, one that I resisted but couldn't shake. Was Kathy being unfaithful to me? Anger surged within me, but I suppressed it. Confronting Kathy with just a condom wrapper would lead nowhere. She could deny it or twist the situation against me. I knew I needed more than this before taking any action. I apologize, I said as she brandished the flimsy piece of plastic in front of me. Hastily getting dressed in jeans and a shirt, I grabbed my keys. The once familiar walls of my house now felt oppressive, with every nook and cranny seeming suspicious. Needing to clear my mind, I knew just the person to turn to. Davy Jones. No, not the fictional pirate from the movies, but the real Davy Jones, my old friend and an excellent private investigator. He had earned the nickname during his time in the Navy, and it had stuck even after transitioning from the sea to the streets. If anyone could help me uncover the truth, it was him. Upon entering his office, I found Davy reclining in his chair, feet propped up on the desk, casually sipping coffee from a well-worn mug. He greeted me with a grin and a strong handshake, remarking, "Well, if it isn't Ben Miller. What brings you here today?" After a moment of hesitation, I mustered the courage to share everything with him. Details of the condom wrapper, my doubts, and the persistent unease gnawing at me. Davy listened attentively. He sat with a serious expression, nodding occasionally without interruption as I spoke. Once I had finished, he leaned back in his chair, stroking his gray stubble thoughtfully. "All right, Ben, I'll assist you with this. Give me a week to investigate," he said. "But before we proceed, I need you to consider something. If this is the situation you suspect, you should be prepared. Speak with a lawyer to understand the financial and other implications. It's tough to think about divorce," he added, a feeling of unease settling in the pit of my stomach. but I knew he was speaking the truth. Yes, I replied quietly, I'll do that. Dee stood, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We'll uncover the truth, Ben, I promise. I nodded in gratitude, left his office, the wrapper still weighing heavily in my pocket. 2 hours later, I found myself seated in Butch Reed's office, the renowned divorce lawyer himself eyeing me intently. Earning his title as the best in town, the man known as Butch was a straightforward individual who didn't hesitate to give me the harsh reality of my situation. As I presented my case, he attentively took notes on a legal pad. When he finally raised his head and spoke, he delivered the truth bluntly. Ben, if things go the way you fear, you stand to lose half of everything: assets, savings, the house. In California, it's a straightforward 50-50 split under community property laws. This revelation hit me hard, realizing that I could potentially lose half of my life's work and everything Kathy and I had built together. Despite the emotional blow, I knew deep down that I couldn't continue a marriage tainted by infidelity. Butch, sensing my inner turmoil, advised me quietly, if you're committed to proceeding, Ben, my suggestion is to maintain a composed demeanor and avoid arousing suspicion. If she senses any hint of your intentions, she'll likely seek legal counsel, complicating matters further. I nodded in acknowledgement of his counsel. Feeling the weight of his words, I reassured, I'll do my best. As I left his office, I felt mentally drained yet determined. I knew I had to keep my composure, no matter how much it pained me inside. When I arrived home, Kathy was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for dinner. Seeing her serene demeanor made my heart ache, but I forced a smile in return. Leaning against the counter, I casually mentioned, I have a business trip starting tomorrow and will be away for the entire week. That night, as Kathy slipped into bed beside me and reached out to me, I could sense her warmth and intentions. However, I had to decline, stating, I'm tired, in a low, monotonous voice. She paused, sighed, and turned away to the other side of the bed. Alone in the dark, I lay staring at the ceiling, my mind swirling with doubts. Was I making a mistake? What if the condom wrapper? Or wasn't hers? What if it was Jack's? He'd stayed in our room for a couple of nights before he left for college while this was being painted. Could it have fallen out of his pocket? Or maybe I was just grasping at straws, trying to convince myself that this wasn't what it looked like. But then again, what if it was exactly what I feared? What if Kathy was cheating on me? The questions gnawed at me, tearing holes in my resolve. But in the end, I knew I couldn't back down now. I needed to see this through, no matter where it led. The next morning I got up early, packed a small bag and booked a cab. Kathy barely stirred as I grabbed my things and left the house, her soft breathing filling the silence as I closed the door behind me. The drive to the outskirts of town was uneventful, the city slowly giving way to open roads and scattered buildings. The motel was as unremarkable as I'd expected. Cheap, clean enough, and anonymous. Perfect for what I needed. I checked in and dropped my bag on me. I paced back and forth in my motel room, the hours dragging on as I stared at the peeling wallpaper. As evening approached, my phone buzzed, and it was Davey on the line. Ben, his voice was steady yet urgent. Kathy just left the house. She's checked into the same motel you're staying at. My heart raced at the thought. Which one? I asked quickly. After a moment of silence, Davey replied, the same motel where you're staying. She's in the room next to yours. The weight of the situation bore down on me, the silence in the room amplifying my anxiety. Davey's next words were a warning. Don't confront her. Leave the room, cool off. It's not the time or place to make a scene. But I couldn't heed his advice. No, Davey, I replied, my voice tense. I need to hear it for myself. Despite his frustration, Davey relented, cautioning me not to do anything rash. Promise me, Ben, he urged before we hung up. After agreeing, I ended the call and felt the phone tremble in my hand as the minutes stretched on endlessly. Through the thin walls, I heard muffled voices at first, unable to discern the words. Slowly, the sounds became clearer. It was Kathy's voice mixed with a deep, unfamiliar male tone engaged in intimacy. Kathy was known to be expressive in bed, but what I heard next turned my stomach. The man spoke with disdain, questioning why she was still with her older partner who he believed couldn't please her anymore. Kathy's response was somber, admitting that he couldn't satisfy her like the man could. Their conversation pierced through me like a knife. The man cruelly mocked her situation, questioning her choice to stay with her aging partner. Without hesitation, she explained it was due to financial dependency. I sat there, stunned by the exchange, stuck at the edge of the bed, my entire body stiff with tension, and each breath a struggle. The sounds of laughter from the adjoining room felt like corrosive acid gnawing at my sanity. Unable to bear it any longer, I rose up, fists clenched, poised to burst through the door and put an end to the torment. Just as I was about to move, the door to my room swung open, revealing Davy standing there, his face grave. He grasped my arm firmly, preventing me from advancing. "Don't," he intoned sharply, his voice quiet yet authoritative. "Not now. Not in this way. Let me go," I snapped, attempting to break free, but Davy's hold only grew stronger. "Listen, Ben," he insisted sternly, leaving no room for argument. "They've left the window open. My camera is rolling. Everything is being recorded. You'll have all the proof you need. If you act impulsively now, you'll be the one landing in trouble, messing up your chances in the divorce." I glared at him, my anger palpable, my eyes clouded with fury. "I don't give a damn about the divorce," I spat out. "I want them to suffer," Davy advanced, his grip uncompromising. "And you will," he asserted, "but not like this. Think, Ben. If you lose control now, you lose everything." I resisted briefly, the anger bubbling inside me ready to erupt. Yet Davy's strength prevailed, and his words struck me like a sharp rebuke. Gradually, the fight drained from me, replaced by a flood of crushing sorrow. I sank onto the bed, my head in my hands, feeling shattered, disgraced, and impotent. The woman I had cherished and relied on for 20 years was in the adjacent room, dismantling our shared life. In the ensuing quiet, I rose with determination, my jaw clenched, my fists quivering. "I will seek retribution," I declared, my voice quiet but resolute, each syllable searing like flames. "She may strip away my possessions, but I will devastate her, just as she ruined my marriage and my trust." After Davy departed, I sat in the dimly lit motel room, my mind swirling with recent events. My limbs weighed heavily, as if burdened by the weight of 1,000 stones. I sat alone, enduring the torment of knowing the truth. The plan was straightforward: stay away for 3 days while Davy monitored Kathy. The agreement weighed heavy on my mind as I paced the room, fists clenched and replaying her words endlessly. When Davy finally called that night, his composed voice tried to steady me as he delivered the news that Kathy and a man had left the motel. It was Roger Smith, a coworker of hers. The name meant little to me, yet the realization that she was with someone from her workplace struck a nerve deeper than I had anticipated. Davy revealed details about Kathy's supposed work nights, urging me to remain still as he continued surveilling. It was crucial not to act rashly until we had all the facts. I barely managed to respond before hanging up. The hours that followed were agonizing, each tick of the clock serving as a painful reminder of where she was and who she was with. The next day, Davy called once again, delivering short clinical updates that felt like blows to the stomach. Roger and she had been spending time together at his place, following the same routine of meeting after work and staying late. Davy had gathered enough evidence to build a case. As he informed me of the intimate details, he revealed that she had been engaging in sexual activities with Roger daily, a fact he spoke of with a steady voice that belied his underlying hesitancy. The three of us, Butch, Davy, and I, convened in Butch's office. The atmosphere was tense, with drawn blinds and the faint smell of leather and coffee in the air. Butch sat back in his chair, fingers intertwined, while Davy stood near the window, arms crossed. "We're proceeding with the plan," Butch declared firmly, his voice unwavering. "Ben, head back home and maintain a calm demeanor. It's crucial that you don't arouse any suspicion. The evidence collected by Davy is solid, but the longer we handle this carefully, the stronger our position will be. Davy agreed with a nod. Be sure to act as you normally would, Ben. Avoid any conflicts or mistakes, and keep her under the impression that everything is normal. In the meantime, I'll continue monitoring her actions in case she tries anything new. Despite the storm churning inside me, I swallowed hard and assured them. I understand, my voice unwavering. I will manage it. Butch leaned forward, his gaze intense. Remember, losing your composure means losing your advantage. Keep that in mind every moment you're in that house. Taking a deep breath, I acknowledged his words. We went over the plan one more time before I departed. The thought of what lay ahead weighed heavily on me, but I was determined to persevere. Upon returning home, I found Kathy in the kitchen, her face brightening at the sight of me. Welcome back, she greeted cheerfully and moved closer as if to embrace me, but I instinctively took a step back and raised a hand. Wait, I interjected quickly. I think I may have been exposed to COVID-19. A coworker tested positive, and I'm not feeling quite right. I don't want to risk getting you sick. Her expression turned to one of concern. Oh no, are you okay? Are you showing any symptoms? I hesitated before responding, just a mild sore throat. I lied, trying to sound composed, but I think it's best if I stay in the guest room for a few days as a precaution. Kathy nodded empathetically. Of course, let me know if you need anything. Tea, soup, anything. I'll take care of you. I managed a small smile. Thank you, I'll be okay. After a brief pause, she gently suggested, should we consider postponing the anniversary party? It's coming up soon. I shook my head, maintaining a neutral expression. No, there's no need for that. I should be back on my feet in a few days. While I isolate, I'll work on planning the celebration. Kathy's features softened as she smiled. That's thoughtful of you, she remarked, to which I simply nodded in return. In spite of my outward composure, my inner turmoil raged as the phone vibrated on the nightstand, shattering the quiet of the guest room. Anticipating it was Davy, I answered without a word. She left the office during lunch. He began directly. She's at Roger's house again, same routine. Though my jaw tensed, I remained silent, allowing him to continue. I've sent you the videos and pictures, Davy informed me. You should find everything in your inbox. With a heavy heart, I gazed at the phone before opening the email, revealing undeniable evidence of Kathy's betrayal. A sight I dreaded. I observed them together in compromising positions, fueling a rising wave of revulsion and anger within me. After a moment of silent contemplation, I addressed Davy with a detached tone. If I were not her husband, I might derive some pleasure from these videos. However, now they simply sicken me. A silence hung on the line following my words, and we paused before speaking again, his tone measured. I understand this is difficult, Ben, he said, but we're running out of time. The 7 days in isolation felt endless, but I knew I had to stay committed to the plan. Kathy remained oblivious, consumed by her own world. As I emerged from isolation, I composed myself and rejoined her, pretending everything was normal. Kathy, hopeful for things to return to normal, tried to embrace me, but I resisted. I'm still weak, I said calmly, masking my turmoil. I don't think I can do anything tonight. Concerned, Kathy suggested I rest, acknowledging my recent illness. The next day, I went for a comprehensive STD check to verify the truth and avoid any potential disaster. The clinic was prompt and efficient. I refrained from dwelling too much on what the outcome might be, but upon my return home, I eagerly sought out the results. Invitations for the anniversary party were promptly sent out to family, friends, and anyone else I could think of. I was determined to ensure that the party went smoothly. One afternoon, the phone rang, and it was my kids confirming their attendance for the celebration. Hearing their voices brought a fleeting warmth to my heart, quickly dissipating. Later, Kathy approached me wearing a softer expression than usual. I love you, Ben, she said genuinely. I'm grateful to have you as my husband. I responded with a small, insincere smile, maintaining the facade. I know you are, honey. I replied a week later. The much-anticipated day of the anniversary festivity finally arrived, with everything in place. The house buzzed with people, their voices reverberating throughout the rooms, laughter filling the air. Amidst the well-wishers praising my good fortune, remarking on the wonderful years we had shared, Kathy looked radiant as always, her bright and almost innocent smile beaming in front of the guests she had invited from her office, including Roger and his wife. I couldn't help but notice the exchanged glances between them, Kathy by my side while Roger stood nearby, feigning engagement in other conversations. I chose not to invite anyone from my own office. Despite Kathy finding it strange, I smoothly explained that they were caught up in an important meeting, not giving her a reason to question further. It was more of a creative truth than a lie. When Kathy's parents arrived, showering us with kind words and congratulations, I put on a smile and thanked them, though inside my true feelings were far from joyous. They were unaware of the situation unfolding. Truth be told, they were oblivious to the information I possessed. Kathy stuck by my side throughout the evening, leaning on me with her arm, her smile unwavering as she greeted everyone with practiced enthusiasm. Her focus was on displaying perfection in every way, emphasizing how flawless everything was and how flawless we appeared. Yet my mind was preoccupied with how much longer I could maintain the facade. The event was lively, with people mingling, laughing, and offering congratulations. The atmosphere felt almost overwhelming in its perfection. But I knew this was just the quiet before the storm. Then Davy and Butch walked in. This was the moment I had anticipated, the moment when everything would unravel. I had spent weeks strategizing, carefully planning every aspect. Now it was time to set things in motion. I politely asked Kathy to release my hand, her touch a constant reminder of my endured struggles. She complied without hesitation, continuing to greet the guests with a smile, unaware of the impending chaos. I strolled towards my designated spot, ready to proceed. As I stood in front of the giant screen we had installed for the occasion, the lights dimmed, and suddenly I was visible to everyone. Despite my heart pounding in my chest, I grabbed the mic and mustered up the courage to address the crowd. "I'm grateful that each and every one of you is here tonight," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. The audience murmured in agreement, nodding and smiling at me. "Every single person in this room holds a special place in my heart. And in Kathy's," I continued. "I've been blessed to be married to Kathy for the past 25 years, I said, acknowledging her attempt to correct me. I smiled knowingly at her before turning to Davy, who held the carefully wrapped gift meant for my wife. "Davy, please present this gift to my wife," I requested. As Davy made his way to the stage with the gift in hand, Kathy, still smiling, stood next to her parents, unaware of what was about to unfold. With anticipation hanging in the air, her father helped her unwrap the gift, and I could sense the tension building in the room. As the building tension rose, each passing second seemed like an eternity. The look of shock on Kathy's face matched my expectations when the image appeared, yet it was still difficult to witness. In the picture, Kathy was depicted on top of Roger, engaged in a sexual act. Her scream pierced the room, adding to the palpable tension. Her father reacted just as I had foreseen, with anger and fury. "Ben, what is the meaning of this?" he thundered, the anger in his voice almost drowning out my own shock. I met my father-in-law's gaze, striving to maintain a composed tone despite the rage simmering within me. "This is no joke," I asserted, trying to defuse the situation. "The image is simply a preview of the video I am about to show." The image was just the beginning. I had anticipated this moment. Davy positioned himself at the controls, the sound of buttons being pressed filling the room before the video appeared on the massive screen. The scene of Kathy and Roger, along with Kathy's haunting words from the video, reverberated through the space, almost unrecognizable. "I'm keeping him just to keep." Bills were rolling. The impact of those words struck like a blow to the stomach, but having heard them before, this time they didn't sting. The ensuing silence was heavy, suffocating. All eyes in the room seemed to be fixed on me, yet I remained steady. Suddenly, a man in a black suit emerged, his composed demeanor adding to the surreal atmosphere. Moving purposefully, he ignored Kathy's shocked expression and approached her, handing her a manila envelope with a simple statement, "Mrs. Miller, you have been served." Kathy froze, her hand hesitating to take the envelope, her eyes darting between the man and me. A mix of confusion and anger etched on her face. She tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. Without delay, the man turned away, passing her to reach Roger, who stood rigidly with a look of surprise and remorse. He handed Roger another envelope, delivered the legal notice to Mr. Smith with unwavering composure. Roger's eyes widened as he accepted the envelope, stealing anxious glances at Kathy, who was still processing the situation. Before Roger could utter a word, Lope moved on, displaying a sense of practiced efficiency. Approaching the CEO next, Lope's presence seemed to make the room feel smaller, his footsteps reverberating against the walls. With the same calm demeanor, he handed the CEO an envelope and recited the familiar words, "Mr. Thompson, you have been served." The CEO, someone I had once admired, accepted the envelope with a furrowed brow, visibly paling as he grasped the gravity of the situation. "What is this?" the CEO inquired, his voice trembling slightly. However, Lope remained silent, exiting the room swiftly just as he had entered. I addressed the CEO directly, meeting his gaze as I spoke slowly and deliberately. "Mr. Thompson, that is a lawsuit for failure to enforce the company's morality code. Your employees were caught engaging in immoral behavior during their lunch break." The room fell into a heavy silence as everyone tried to process the unfolding events. Thompson's face contorted with a mix of confusion and anger, but I paid no mind to his reaction, knowing he too had a hand in the betrayal. My attention turned to Roger, the man who had not only shattered my trust, but also destroyed my marriage. "Mr. Smith, you are being served for alienation of affection and for breaking up my marriage," I proclaimed, the words reverberating through the room with a sharp intensity. As I glanced at Kathy, the one who had inflicted the deepest wounds, I steeled myself against the pain in her eyes. "And Kathy, you are being served divorce papers," I declared, determination etched in my voice. I swallowed hard, refusing to falter in my resolve. I had mentioned that we were married for 24 years and 6 months. While that is true, the reality is our marriage died the moment you decided to betray me with another man, I continued. The bitterness of my words hanging heavily in the air told the truth without sugarcoating it. Our investigations revealed that it all began 6 months ago. Despite seeing a mix of guilt and anger in her eyes, I remained resolute. She had chosen her path, and now it was time for me to make mine. "I don't care about the reasons," I stated firmly, my voice taking on a harsh edge. "Just leave my house." With those words, a sense of finality washed over me. The days that followed felt like a never-ending waiting game, with chaos still swirling around. Kathy's parents persisted in their efforts, calling and visiting to dissuade me from what they viewed as a hasty decision. They implored me to forgive Kathy, to give her another chance. "You don't understand, Ben. Kathy is going through a tough time," her mother pleaded with concern in her eyes. "You've been together for so long. You can work this out." Even her typically quiet father chimed in, had a more direct approach. "You can't just throw away 24 years. Think about the family. Think about everything you've built together." But I was resolute. I had made my decision, and nothing was going to change that. The betrayal had cut too deep. There was no coming back from this. I didn't need their pleading or their well-meaning advice. I had given Kathy more than enough chances to be honest with me, and she had chosen to lie, to deceive. It was over. Still, Kathy didn't give up. As if the truth of everything we'd been through wasn't enough, she fought back with a new, strange excuse. At the hearing, her eyes filled with tears, and she looked at me with a pleading expression. "Ben, please," she started, her voice cracking. "I've been going through a lot. I have a hormone imbalance, and that's why I wanted more sex. You weren't able to provide that for me, and that's why I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, this was her excuse." I looked over at Butch. My lawyer David noticed skepticism on Ms. Miller's face and quickly addressed it. He pointed out that there was no prior communication about the hormone imbalance issue with his client, no medical records to support the claim. Kathy was taken aback by Butch's words, visibly caught off guard. The judge, who had been silent until then, leaned in with a serious expression. He questioned why Ms. Miller had not informed her husband about the medical issue if it was affecting their marriage. Kathy hesitated, showing signs of frustration. Before she could respond, the judge made it clear that without proper communication and evidence, there were no grounds for reconciliation. The weight of the judge's decision was undeniable, but it had to be said as anticipated. I presented my case, fully aware that there was no turning back. Understanding her actions no longer consumed me. After 7 months of deliberation, the judge finally granted the divorce. The aftermath of the divorce was consequential, affecting not only myself but also my children, Jack and Emily, who found themselves caught in the turmoil. Their neutrality masked their true feelings of anger towards both Kathy for her actions and me for exposing her. I acknowledged their pain, realizing that my actions, though justified in my eyes, had unintentionally hurt them. Their subsequent silence towards us was their way of coping with the betrayal. Respectfully, I maintained my distance to allow them the space needed for healing, although the uncertainty of our relationship left an unfillable void. Nevertheless, I accepted the consequences of my decisions. And now I had to live with the consequences. Financially, things had changed too. My assets had been reduced by half after the divorce settlement. Everything I had worked for divided down the middle. But as hard as it was to watch everything I had accumulated over the years slip away, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Kathy had taken her share, but my dignity, my self-respect, they were still mine. I had kept those intact. Roger wasn't faring any better. He was in his own battle, fighting for a divorce from his wife. I knew she had hired Butch to represent her, and there was no way he was going to come out of that without a major dent. The guy might have played a role in the destruction of my marriage, but his own was falling apart, and it was only a matter of time before the damage hit him too. The CEO, on the other hand, wanted this whole mess to go away. He had his own interests to protect, and the public scandal was bad for business. It wasn't long before I got a call from. He offered him arranging a backdoor meeting. The offer was simple: $1 million for me to withdraw the case. They wanted silence and closure, and I was the key to that. I had already divorced Kathy, and I wasn't looking for more revenge. I had made my peace with the decision, and if this money would end the chaos and give me some financial cushion as I started this next chapter, then I'd take it. So I withdrew the case. I still keep the million with me, a symbol of the deal I made to end it all 3 years later. I'm sitting on the porch of my little farmhouse, watching the sun dip below the horizon, the colors bleeding across the sky in a way that only the countryside can offer. The air is crisp. The world feels quieter here, and it's the peace I've been craving for years. I'm surrounded by my animals, 2 German shepherds, Max and Duke, both loyal and protective. Their eyes always watching, as if they're making sure no one or nothing can hurt me anymore. They're more than pets. They're my companion since has become my constant companion. A reassuring presence that reminds me I am not alone in this vast world. Although my farm may be modest in size and not particularly grand, it is my own haven. Over the past year, I have immersed myself in the duties of tending to the chickens, working the fields, mending fences, and deriving contentment from the simplicity and repetition of each task that fills my day. This new way of life is a departure from my previous existence, but one that I have embraced wholeheartedly. It has provided me with a sense of purpose that had been absent for far too long, a grounding force that guides me each day. There is a natural cadence to life here. The animals, the land, the changing seasons, that has allowed me to slow down and savor each passing moment. And to my surprise, my children, Jack and Emily, have begun to visit once more. Despite the challenges and occasional awkwardness, I can sense the barriers between us slowly crumbling. As they navigate their own paths and face their own struggles, these visits mark a significant step forward in our relationship. We share stories, reminisce, and sometimes simply sit in comfortable silence, forging connections that had once seemed lost amidst the peaceful farm life. Things that once weighed me down now feel lighter. I've shifted from trying to fix everything to simply being there when needed. As for Kathy, rumors swirl that she's back living with her parents, immersed in therapy to navigate her own struggles. Despite any lingering empathy, I've distanced myself. Letting go of bitterness and anger has freed me from the past, allowing me to find happiness in the present. Each day begins with the symphony of birds, the rustle of wind in the trees, and the playful barks of my dogs exploring. I now have everything I need right here, dear listeners. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.